Hello, I'm Esther Gidhu-Ewart. It's Thursday, March 31st. This is Africa 54.
A Ukrainian girl seen singing in a viral video in a Kyiv bomb shelter uses her newfound fame to help raise money for her homeland. Aid agencies are calling for urgent assistance to Ethiopia's Oromia region as child malnutrition rates rise in drought-affected southern areas. And a Nigerian-American author embarks on a journey to teach children African languages and culture and promote diversity and inclusion in children's literature.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says his country's defense against the Russian invasion is at a turning point as he again pressed the United States for more help just hours after the Kremlin forces reneged on a pledge to scale back some of their operations on Wednesday. Russia's aerial bombardment of areas around Kyiv and Chernihiv and intensified attacks elsewhere in the country further undermined hopes for progress toward ending the bloody conflict that has devolved into a war of attrition. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg spoke Thursday about Russian troop movement.
According to our intelligence, Russian units are not withdrawing, but repositioning. Russia is trying to regroup, resupply, and reinforce its offensive in the Donbas region. We need to judge Russia on their actions, not on their words, and it remains to be seen whether there is any real willingness from the Russian side to find a political solution.
Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi said Thursday that Russian President Vladimir Putin told him in a telephone call on Wednesday that conditions are not yet in place for a ceasefire in Ukraine. Draghi also says that Putin told him that current gas contracts remained in force and that European firms will continue to pay in euros and dollars rather than in rubles. Talks between Ukraine and Russia are set to resume Friday by video, according to David Arakhamia, head of a Ukrainian delegation that visited Washington on Wednesday to push for more U.S. assistance. Jeremy Fleming, who heads the British electronic spy agency, said Thursday in Australia that demoralized Russian soldiers in Ukraine are refusing to carry out orders and sabotaging their own equipment and had accidentally shot down their own aircraft. The northeast Ukrainian town of Torosisyanets, which was under the control of Russian forces for a month, has been retaken by Ukrainian troops. However, the town was heavily damaged, with residential buildings left in ruins and Russian military hardware left behind. A railway station sustained heavy damage. Train cars with multiple bullet holes and shattered windows were seen at the abandoned railway station. Over the past week, Ukrainian forces have recaptured towns and villages on the outskirts of Kyiv, broken the siege of the eastern city of Sumy, and pushed back Russian forces in the southwest. Russia says it is carrying out a special operation to disarm and denazify its neighbor, but Western countries say Moscow's invasion was entirely unprovoked. 5 weeks into the Russian invasion that has left thousands dead, the number of Ukrainians fleeing the country tops a staggering 4 million people, half of them children, according to the United Nations. For more on the war, I'm joined live via Skype from Vinnytsia, Ukraine, by VOA's Heather Murdoch. Heather, what's the reaction on the ground?
Well, there have been talks recently, and on the ground here, we've talked to a lot of people in Western Ukraine about how they feel about these peace talks, and they consistently say they would not support peace talks if mean that they would cede land to Russia. Others have told us they believe peace talks are useful because while leaders are talking, that means they are less likely to be as violent as if they were not talking. But still others, including clergy members, said if there is a peace agreement, they're not sure they trust it, saying that the only value of a peace agreement is the value of the word of the people that made it. And they don't necessarily trust all the players in this game.
And Heather, how is life like for the internally displaced people?
Well, as you know, and as you said, there are millions of people who have fled this country, but there are also millions more who have fled their homes and live inside the country. In the cities in the West, cities are packed because every apartment, every space, every shelter is full. And even people who have money to pay for hotels often can't find places. There is an enormous effort, though, within Ukraine to supply displaced families with food, necessities like clothes and medicine. So there is a lot of mobilization, but there's so much chaos. It's very difficult for families right now.
So, Heather, there's no telling when this war will end. How are Ukrainians prepared if it goes on for a couple of months?
Several people have said that they are afraid that this war will go on for a couple of months or even longer. A couple of months at least, they say, because they, as Ukrainians, want to not just say to themselves, but also make it clear to the world they believe that they will not end the war until they have got their land back that Russia has taken. But some people are thinking and fearing that this war could get frozen, as so many other wars in this world have, and continue for the long run. People are preparing in some ways, in some places, people are preparing by arming themselves, creating weapons in their bases. Other people are moving out of the country. Other people are hunkering into their homes and supplying themselves with food and trying to think of different kinds of jobs, different kinds of ways of making money. One unfortunate thing is we talked to some farmers yesterday who said they don't know how they prepare for a long war because they need to go home soon if they're going to plant their farms to harvest this year. And what to do next year, it's not even a thought. They're just trying to get by this year.
Heather, thanks. VOA's Heather Murdoch reporting live via Skype from Vinnytsia, Ukraine. In 2022, 274 million people will need humanitarian assistance and protection, according to the United Nations Global Humanitarian Report of 2022. This is a significant increase from 235 million people a year ago, which was already the highest figure in decades. VOA's Carol Gunsberg spoke to Gregory Ram, head of humanitarian response for Save the Children in Washington, about the situation.
We are seeing a level of support and interest in Ukraine that is, virtually unprecedented. You'd have to go back to the Asian tsunami or in the U.S. markets, the earthquake in Haiti to see this level of generosity and solidarity and support. So at least in terms of private giving, it's not a drop-off. And actually, I'm hopeful that this has started a conversation.
Ram stressed that while Ukraine is a top aid priority, other parts of the world are still in need of urgent assistance.
But in a busy world, there are many crises that that are neglected. And right now, we have a world facing conflict, facing the climate crisis, COVID, and yet it is difficult to get the world's attention to Sudan, to Eastern Congo, to Yemen, to the Sahel, to those places where children are suffering in the same way that the children of Ukraine are suffering.
That was Gregory Ram, head of the humanitarian response for Save the Children in Washington. A Ukrainian girl seen singing in a viral video while in a Kyiv bomb shelter is using her newfound fame to help raise money for her homeland. VOA's Miroslava Gongaze caught up with the 7-year-old Amelia Anisovich and her family in Poland, where they are living as refugees.
When 7-year-old Amelia started singing in a bomb shelter in Kyiv, the crowded and noisy underground room where people were hiding from Russian shelling felt completely silent. filmed and posted by the neighbor named Martha. The video of Amelia singing a song from the Disney film Frozen went viral almost instantly.
They liked it a lot. They all applauded. They were giving me high fives.
Amelia tells me this story in a peaceful park near Poland's capital, where we met with her mother, Lilia, and grandmother, Vera. Feeding the birds at the lake, Amelia recalled to me how she used to feed the ducks in Ukraine, and how when the war started, she often went to the bomb shelter and had to watch her every step because of the possible landmine along the way. Her mother, Lilia, recalled when she decided to leave Kyiv.
When Amelia started to be afraid to come to the windows, and when we would leave home to go to the shelter and then back because we would go to the bomb shelter at night, she would ask me at every step, can she take the step and if it's safe? At that point, I realized it is the end, it is the line. If I cross it and we will stay in Kyiv, she will become psychologically damaged. She will become a child who is afraid of her own shadow.
Amelia remembers the crowded train ride out of Kyiv.
Some people stood up, some people sat down, slept on the floor at the train station. Me too. They gave us a soft mattress.
The family says people treat them well here in Poland. The family of 4 lives for free in a home outside of Warsaw. Amelia and her 15-year-old brother Misha can attend school here, but their mother is hoping they will be able to go home soon.
I was hoping to come here for a few weeks. Now I understand it could be longer, but I have the capacity to hope it will be only for a few months. I am afraid to imagine it could be longer. It doesn't matter how good and safe it is here. I feel foreign. I'd like to go home. I would like to see my husband. I am afraid for my family. I really hope that someone will hear my prayers and the prayers of thousands and millions of people, and I will be home soon.
And Amelia says she feels like she's growing up fast. The child appears unusually composed as she talks about her homeland.
We have to speak Ukrainian, not Russian, because our enemy speaks Russian. Our land is in Ukraine. We have to speak Ukrainian. We have war in Ukraine. Russia is attacking us. I am afraid for my family. My dad is there, my grandfather, my grandmother. I am afraid for all of them. Many kids have already died, and I would like to live, very much, and other kids would like to live.
Amelia's mother and grandmother are trying to maintain a sense of normality for her and her older brother. Last year, Amelia started going to school in Kyiv. Now, a refugee, she resumes her studies in this small town near Warsaw. The family hopes the war will end and they will return soon. For now, little Amelia is using her talent and newfound fame, singing at charity concerts around Poland, and she is raising a lot of money to help Ukraine. Miroslava Gongadze, Voice of America, Warsaw, Poland.
At least 7 bodies were recovered and about a dozen people were missing after a boat carrying mostly women and children capsized in north-central Nigeria on Wednesday, according to area residents. 2 residents in Guni village in Niger State say the passengers on the boat were trying to escape from gunmen who had attacked their village in the Munya local government area. Guni resident Kabiru Musa told Reuters by phone that his wife and 7-year-old child were among more than 20 people who boarded the boat, and they are missing. Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo deplored recent coups in West Africa Wednesday and announced that a national vaccine institute will be set up. David Doyle has more.
Ghana will start producing its own COVID-19 vaccines, President Nana Akufo-Addo announced on Wednesday, though there is a bit of a wait. In a State of the Nation address, Akufo-Addo said the plan would be achieved by setting up a national vaccine institute.
Which will enable us to begin the first phase of commercial production in January 2024. A bill was shortly brought to you in this House for your support and approval for the establishment of the National Vaccine Institute.
Most remaining coronavirus restrictions in Ghana were lifted over the weekend, with the government citing rapidly declining infections and a relatively successful inoculation campaign. Ghana has so far vaccinated around 21.4% of its population, according to data from Reuters. Akufo-Addo, who chairs regional bloc ECOWAS, also deplored a string of coups that have taken place across West Africa over the past 18 months.
The West African region is suddenly back with the international news headlines for all the wrong reasons. We're back again as the region of political instability and the place for coups.
The governments of Mali, Burkina Faso and Guinea have all been toppled since August 2020. Regional leaders are seeking to hasten a return to constitutional order through sanctions and ultimatums.
David Doy of Reuters filed that report. Let us know what you think about Africa 54. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Still to come, a Nigerian-American author shares African folktales. We'll be right back.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linoch Mudu, in Washington, every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
Ethiopian health officials say child malnutrition is on the rise in the drought-affected southern areas where the UN says millions are facing hunger. Aid agencies are calling for urgent assistance to Ethiopia's Oromia region. Gelmo Dawit reports from Yabelo Borena zone in the Oromia region.
Mother of two, Shukur Muhammad has brought her malnourished 2-year-old son to the local hospital in Oromia's Borena zone.
He is malnourished due to drought. We do not have the milk to give him. He is now surviving because of the supplementary feeding he gets from the clinic.
Shukur says her entire family is surviving on food aid after they lost all their cows to the worst drought to hit the Horn of Africa in decades. The UN's World Food Program says 500,000 livestock have starved to death in southern Ethiopia, while nearly 6 million people are facing hunger. Borna health officials say they have registered more than 125,000 cases of child malnutrition in just the past few months.
We set aside this room for malnourished children. We are keeping some in the outpatient department because we are now at capacity.
Medicine in some areas is running low, and despite health officials appealing to humanitarian agencies in the area, their efforts were of no avail.
There is a huge gap regarding medicine. We have been appealing for help but get no response.
Aid agency Action Against Hunger is helping the region's health facilities to treat malnourished children, but says the ongoing drought is a challenge.
The problem is now getting tougher. All concerned bodies should provide more help for the communities living in this area.
But with attention focused elsewhere, southern Ethiopia's most vulnerable are left struggling to survive with little assistance. Over 700,000 people have been internally displaced inside the Oromia region due to insecurity in areas where there are rebel fighting and intercommunal violence. Regional authorities say they are trying to meet the needs of 500,000 civilians who are forced to leave their homes. Galbo Dawit for VOA News, Borno Zone, Ethiopia.
Have you ever wondered why spiders have thin legs? The answer may be in Ghana, where you will find out in author Ada Adari's retelling of this time-honored folktale. The Nigerian-American has embarked on a journey to share stories and African folktales heard by children on the continent from generations to generations. For more insight, Africa 54's Linomudu spoke with the author.
These stories came to me when I started reading to my young children who are now 2 and 4. And we're living here in America, and I was reading stories to them, European folk tales that have been retold for thousands of years. And I thought to myself, I remember all these great stories that my grandparents and aunties and folks used to tell us growing up as well. And I would hate for my children to miss out on these stories as well, because they were so fun, they were so engaging, they were creative ways to share different moral values, and they are applicable to kids of all backgrounds. So whether growing up in Nigeria or here in America, it's a way to kind of blend cultures and bring some of our heritage here.
What prompted you to embark on this journey to teach children various African languages?
My children, again, inspired me to go on this journey. I was born and raised in Nigeria, now living here as an American, and I have children who are now being raised as Americans. And I feel like we're growing up in a multicultural family because they have the American realities of every day, but I'm also trying to infuse different parts of our culture into their experience. So I actually was working with my sister-in-law who has a brand that helps to build language learning tools for our specific language, which is Igbo. And that's how we created the first words in different African languages. The validation for me came when I saw my children react to it. Like, they grabbed it, they wanted to learn. And this has really been helpful for them to actually learn our different languages and different words in our languages. We launched with 4 languages: Igbo, Yoruba, Swahili, and also Tree, which is a Ghanaian language. So the goal now is to introduce not just my children or different children of African descendants living in the diaspora, but everyone, all the children in the world, to expose them to our African languages. We're looking to cover as many African languages as we possibly can.
What is your take on the relation of language on cultural awareness, particularly for African children in the diaspora?
It helps to bridge the gap with identifying who it is that you are and where you came from. And my children all have very traditional Igbo names, Nigerian names. And by teaching them our language, they get to understand what their names mean.
What age range are these books for?
They're really applicable to young children from as far as infancy. I've seen a lot of grandparents and parents interacting with and building those bonding moments with their young children. I've seen adults using our books because there's also a segment of the population who may have parents who grew up in parts of Africa, and they have been born and raised here. So they're using this as a way to kind of bridge the gap between the language that their parents spoke, but they didn't really hear as often at home, and also being able to translate that and give it to their younger children.
The characters that are in your books are from different stories from the continent. These are not made-up stories from you, but you are taking actually real folk stories and putting them in the book.
What I chose to do was to actually take historical artifacts, so stories that have always existed in their natural form, slightly update them just for the world that we're living in today, but still being very true and honest to the stories themselves and tell them. And I'm very clear to also just call out or give credit to where the story came from. So on the back of each book, you have a little geography lesson where I talk about the country that the story came from, as well as the tribe or the kingdom or the people who brought the stories to us.
What do you think kids love about your books?
The storybooks, I think they're very drawn to the character. For younger children, some of these stories I actually have like a counting lesson as well. And they really love the fun fact cards. With the language books, I'm pretty sure it's the colors, the look, the size. It's very bite-sized. It's a board book, so it's kind of indestructible. and then you can just see how beautiful the images are.
What would you like parents to teach, to take away from your books?
Well, I would really love for parents to also be exposed to who it is that we as Africans are. I would love for people to realize who it is that we as African Americans who've been living here now, where we came from, who we came from, what we came from, how did we sound, what kind of stories did we tell, what kind of moral values did we pass along. I think it's really important, especially in this day and age, to be aware of the fact that we're so much more similar, even in our differences. And one thing that has been very enriching for me is seeing my kids take these books to their schools, and their friends want to engage with it as well. So all of us can enjoy the same things.
Ada Ari, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on the book, and we wish you all the best and much success. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye.
That was Africa 54's Lino Mudu speaking with children's book author Ada Ari. Kenya recently held the Lioness Rally, an all-female rally event aimed at challenging stereotypes over women's participation in motorsports. Grace Lee has more.
Kenya's Maxine Wahome has emerged victorious in the East African country's first all-women rally competition. Motorsports are still predominantly male-dominated, but the race on Sunday, dubbed the Lioness Rally, is seeking to challenge stereotypes. Wahome said she hopes such rallies could lead to an all-woman World Rally Championship.
But it takes a while, so hopefully we can have a big Kenyan one. Let's see where we can go from there. But it's at least now you can see people are more interested. There's a lot of spectators.
The 27-year-old driver, racing her Subaru Impreza with Safina Khan on navigation, finished the circuit 13 seconds ahead of runner-up Tash Tundo. Rally fan Sinoli Wanjiru said such events are important to encourage women who may be shy about getting involved.
And seeing that their first timers here and they were able to join and they did their best, which I think it just inspires women to come out of their shell.
Organizers now hope the inaugural race will drum up interest and support for more women to join motorsports.
Grace Lee of Reuters filed that report. And that's our show for today. Thank you for watching.